Okay, let's jump right in. We've got this really fascinating, dense stack of source material this time. It takes us way beyond, standard cosmology or biology. We're really leaping straight into the deep end here, looking at existence, unity, consciousness, but on a truly cosmic scale. The picture these sources paint, well, it's pretty shocking in some ways, but incredibly consistent, too.
It really is. It's like a blueprint that fundamentally redefines, well, everything, the origin of it all. So our mission today really is to cut through that complexity. We want to give you a clear handle on three core ideas: the nature of this eternal life force current, the concept of universal unity, and then the structure of the self, which is described as a multidimensional being.
And we kind of have to start at the top, don't we? Defining the origin point. This perspective says the whole universe flows within something called the total now. And the ultimate source is not just energy, it's called source awareness. Ancient, royal, that's how it's described.
Right. And this is where, our expectations get challenged immediately. The language itself seems designed to push aside any familiar ideas like an anthropomorphic creator. The key thing, the core insight to hang on to is this: the eternal life force, the absolute source of creation. It's described as the legless, lipless, brainless essence of heaven.
That phrase, wow, legless, lipless, brainless. It's incredibly stark, isn't it? It really hammers home that this ultimate reality is pure essence, unembodied. It feels like more than just abstract. It's an act of denial of form as we typically think of it. Why do you think denying legs, lips, a brain, why is that such a crucial starting point here?
Well, I think because it tells you immediately that source operates without third-dimensional limits. It doesn't need physical senses or a physical structure or even linear thought to exist or create. It signals that everything that comes after, including us, derives from this pure foundational essence, not some kind of physical template. It really sets the stage for a universe built fundamentally on consciousness rather than just matter.
Okay, let's follow that essence then, into the structure of reality itself. If source awareness is this essence of heaven, where exactly is this source of pure holiness? Where does it sit in the architecture of existence?
The sources put it right at the edge, the absolute furthest point, in the frontier of all of the universes and in the highest sphere of all of the universes. It's both the origin and the ultimate boundary.
Exactly, the ultimate boundary condition. That's a good way to put it. And what's fascinating is its role at that boundary. It exists, apparently, to maintain the universal unity of light and shadow as balance in all of the dimensions. So it's not just about pure light or goodness. It's about absolute equilibrium.
Right. It's defined by totality. Total light, total energy, total now. That's why they call it the one line of the all in all. But hang on, let's pause here. We need to unpack that term, total now. What exactly is it? Is it just like an eternal present moment? Or is it a specific dimension, a place? It seems to be more profound than just a never-ending present. Think of it more like a state of energetic completion, like total completion, a state where everything that exists, ever existed, or ever will exist, it's all simultaneously present. Right now, in perfect dynamic harmony. So when you exist in this infinite completion of the total now, there's no lack, zero need for change, no linear progression at all.
Which must be, connecting this to the bigger picture, almost overwhelming. If you're in that state, the total now, the result is perfect oneness and perfect love.
Yeah.
It creates a universal utopia. The sources even mention the comfort that only God can give. It sounds like absolute fulfillment.
It is, and the consequence of that fulfillment for our idea of identity. It's profound.
Yeah.
The source material says this existence is in the one holy instant where memory is not stored in the body, but is instead stored in the time of timelessness.
Well, hold on. That's a radical departure from how we usually think about ourselves, isn't it? We tend to define ourselves by memories stored physically, in brain cells. If memory, the very foundation of identity, isn't stored physically, then what's the body for? Is the physical brain just like a temporary antenna or something? A transmitter?
That seems to be exactly the implication, yes. The body is the impermanent vessel, the third-dimensional container. But the real hard drive, your essential identity, your core memory, it resides outside conventional linear time, within that one holy instant. And if identity persists in this time of timelessness, it implies consciousness isn't just a byproduct of the physical brain. The brain might just be the mechanism your eternal self uses to interact with linear time. This would ensure that the essential self, the memory, is eternal, indestructible, because it's not subject to physical decay.
So the body exists to experience, maybe, but not really to contain the self. That completely reframes the physical plane, doesn't it? Okay, so if the self exists in this continuous state of total now, this perfection and love, what does a reality like that actually do? How does something unified and timeless, how does it even move?
That brings us to probably one of the most surprising words in these sources. A term that defines this flow of existence. The sources are very clear. The universe isn't defined by expansion, like the Big Bang, or collapse, like a big crunch. It is not exploding, not imploding, but bloating.
Ploding, B-L-O-D-I-N-G. It sounds like a word made up specifically to reject both standard models at once. What does ploding imply then? Describing the movement of existence, it sounds like. Continuous, balanced, effortless flow. Maybe.
That continuous balance, yes, that's key. Ploding suggests a constant state where creation and dissolution are happening simultaneously, in absolute equilibrium. It's the perfect maintenance of the total now, you see. It just completely defies the idea of linear cosmic events with a clear beginning and end. Instead of movement towards some outcome, the movement is the steady-state manifestation of perfection itself.
So if the sources even mention the Big Bang, is ploding supposed to be the mechanism that, like, sustains things after the bang? Or corrects it? Or does it just completely replace the idea of a singular origin?
It seems to replace it with the idea of perpetual motion that's tied to a purpose. See, the motion of the universe isn't random here. It's driven by perfect oneness and perfect love. This ploding action is how the whole entire physical universes and body flows in perfect oneness. And it ensures the creation of worlds without end precisely because the mechanism itself guarantees stability and continuation. It's built in.
Okay, I have to push back just a little bit here. Couldn't we just say this is the old steady-state theory, but, dressed up in more spiritual language? What's the philosophical kicker? What does ploding offer that a standard scientific steady-state model doesn't?
That's a fair question. The crucial difference, I think, is the direct link between the physics, the mechanism, and the purpose. A scientific steady-state model just observes, essentially, zero net change over time. Ploding attributes the reason for that zero net change directly to the nature of the source itself, that which is created eternal and indestructible like God, unquote. So the motion isn't just happening, it's inseparable from the spiritual intent of maintaining universal unity. It makes the continuous flow almost a moral imperative, you could say, not just a physical observation.
So motion isn't chaos or decay heading towards entropy. It's the active process of maintaining perfection across all dimensions. That really ties the highest sphere directly into the smallest particle, doesn't it?
And if the source is eternal and indestructible, then the flow it generates must also be eternal and indestructible. Ploding guarantees this continuous, non-linear existence for the whole system.
Okay, if the cosmos flows in this perfect oneness, we have to ask, what exactly is flowing? Who are you in this eternal balanced motion? Let's shift the focus now, away from the universal movement and towards the structure of the individual self.
Right. According to this material, you're not just a singular entity. You are a multidimensional being made up of 3 sets of trinities. Okay, 3 sets of 3. That means 9 distinct components to our identity. This is where it gets really interesting and, potentially a bit confusing.
It is complex, but this structured breakdown is actually essential if we want to understand how we exist across different frequencies or dimensions. Each of these 3 distinct layers of existence has its own fully functioning mind, body, and spirit, 9 parts in total.
All right, let's try to break down those 9 components, starting with the one we know best, presumably. Exactly. The first trinity is the 3rd dimension. That's the physical body we're in right now. It has a mind, a body, and a spirit, yes, but it's explicitly labeled the realm of impermanence. This is the temporary physical expression of you, bound by linear time and, as we discussed, those physical memory limitations.
Okay, the temporary vessel. Then we move up a level. The second trinity seems to be the first level of permanence. This is heaven, the eternal form.
Correct. The source explains that when the 6th sense leaves the body, which sounds like consciousness transitioning out of the physical, the resulting being is eternal and indestructible. And this being also possesses its own mind, body, and spirit, created like the source, it says. This sounds like the enduring self, the part that carries experience across maybe lifetimes.
And then finally, the 3rd layer. This sounds the most abstract, the highest state. The imaginative body, the heaven beyond the heavens, described as making up the 3 heavens in our awareness.
This seems to be consciousness operating at its absolute highest frequency. This 3rd trinity again, mind, body, and spirit, exists in the realm of pure being. It's the part of you that is pure creative potential, existing beyond even the limits of that first level of heaven. It's where you are closest to source awareness itself.
Wow, okay, I have to pause again. 3 minds, 3 bodies, 3 spirits. If the 3rd dimensional mind is just the temporary processor, how does it interact with the eternal heaven mind? Do they fight? Are they aware of each other? Or do they just function independently?
That's a really crucial question, isn't it? The perspective seems to suggest a hierarchy. The higher trinities sort of govern the lower ones, or at least they can. The third dimensional mind is limited by physical perception, focus on separation, linear time, all that. The eternal heaven-level mind sees the oneness, the unity, and that's where the true timeless identity is stored. So as a being raises their awareness or their frequency, you could say they're essentially allowing the consciousness of the higher trinity to filter down, to sort of overwrite or guide the lower one, replacing impermanent thoughts with eternal truth. But they're only synchronized through focused intent, stillness, effort.
So the whole process of spiritual awakening then is essentially about integrating these 9 different parts of yourself. It's a huge, complex structure. But thankfully, the sources give us a kind of anchor, right? A way to grasp this complexity through breathing.
Yes, exactly. The breathing analogy is like the tactile key here. It illustrates the subtlety needed to shift between these vibrational levels. Our normal, heavy, third-dimensional breathing. It's described as crude, almost. To reach that heaven state, the eternal form, you need a softer kind of breathing and hyperfocus.
Right. It's like when you try to meditate, maybe.
Yeah.
If you breathe too heavily, you snap back to the third dimension and start thinking about your grocery list again.
Exactly, that kind of idea. And then moving up again to the highest realm, the imaginative body. That requires the softest of all breathing. The subtlety of existence just increases dramatically as you move up through the trinities. To exist in pure being, the physical act of breathing has to become almost imperceptible, reflecting the stillness of the total now.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground. It's been a fascinating journey, really, spanning this whole spectrum of reality described in the forces, from that legless, lipless, brainless essence of heaven at the very top, through the mechanism of universal movement, this plotting, and finally down to the 9-part triple trinity structure of the self.
And what this whole system really reveals is this seamless connection, doesn't it, between the macrocosm and the microcosm. The total now state is maintained by plotting, which in turn guarantees that the individual being the triple trinity is structured perfectly to contain both impermanence, the third dimension, and that eternal, indestructible consciousness in heaven and the imaginative body. It really forces you to see the physical body as just a fractional part, a temporary tool.
So, wrapping this up,
Yeah.
what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, I guess I'd want to leave you with a final thought to maybe mull over. If the universe is truly maintained by this perpetual, purposeful plotting, and if your essential self, your core memory, your identity is only truly realized and stored in that one holy instant, completely outside of linear time, how radically does that force you to reassess the priorities you place on purely physical achievements, or on the impermanent experiences of this third-dimensional world? If your real work, maybe, is the integration of these 9 parts of yourself, how does that change your focus day to day?